In the last video, we looked at this arrow here with points A, B, and C here, and we talked about rotating at 90 degrees. So remember with point A here, which is at 3, 2, that's 3 units over on our x-axis and 2 units up on our y-axis here. So you can almost kind of picture like a box here. That's 3, 2. Now if I rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, we talked, and my rotation point is the origin here, we kind of pictured that as again a box like so, where now it's 3 units down in the y and 2 units over for our point A prime here. And we drew our arrow that's rotated 90 degrees here. So now it's pointing this way. You can kind of picture that if I rotate my whiteboard here, how the arrow would be pointing this way. And we looked at the coordinates of A prime, B prime, and C prime. So A prime is 2, -3. B we have 4, -5. And C we have 2, -7. And the question is, how does rotating at 90 degrees affect the coordinates from our original picture here? Now, the answer, moment of truth here, is you'll notice that the x and y values are flipped, and we also see a change in signs. So how I was drawing the boxes here and rotating my whiteboard to kind of draw my picture here, you could actually do a 90-degree rotation just based on the points. So in the last video we drew an arrow over here from doing a 90-degree rotation counterclockwise. And so if I was to think of my A, and let's call it double prime with 2 tick marks here, B, and C. Again, I'm going to flip my x and y values. So instead of 3, 2, I have 2, 3. In terms of determining the sign, you have to think where on your graph your point is. Notice it's in this quadrant here. We call this quadrant 2. Quadrant 1, you're only going to have positive values. This is the 4th quadrant down here, where your y value is negative. That's because it's below the x-axis. Here we are above the x-axis, but notice now we're on the left side, so my x value is negative. So that's going to be at -2, 3. Here's that A double prime. And if you think of that box, that should make sense. That should be where point A ends up if we go 90 degrees this way. And we did this rotation in the last video as well, so you could even look back at that and see how we got this arrow. But let's look at the coordinates. B, again, I'm going to flip my x and y values. And in terms of what's negative over here, for B double prime, it's the x value that's negative. So we have -4, 5. And for C, 2, 7, and I have a negative x value, -2, 7 for C double prime. Now, in this video, I want to know how I would do a 180-degree rotation, right? If I'm starting with my arrow A, B, and C, what would 180 degrees would look like? That would be like this is 90 degrees and another 90 degree. So notice I almost flipped my whiteboard upside down. Also, in looking at it like this, notice that the arrow is down here. So if I put this the way it was, I should be expecting my arrow to be over here, right? Okay. Now, if in drawing these, rotation involves flipping the x and y value, you can think of it as taking that 90-degree rotation and doing another 90 degrees, whether I come from over here or I come from over here, which would involve flipping my x and y again. Which, if we already flipped it though, that's just going to give us back to what we started, right? Likewise, if we're drawing our boxes here, you can almost think of rotating this box again. So, point A is going to be here. If I do a 90 degree and then another 90 degree, I'm going to end up here with point A. And the coordinate, and we'll put 3 tick marks now, is going to be -3, -2. So we started in this quadrant with all positive values, and we're doing 180 degrees to this quadrant. We call this quadrant 3. Both x and y are negative. Notice my x and y values are not flipped, right? So point B, this is A, point B is going to be -5, -4. Very similar to my starting point, just with an opposite sign. And then here's point C, which is going to be -7, -2. Let's do one more example of this to just get a better picture of it. All right. So, if I do the point, I'm going to do 8, -8, (4). Right? And here, I'm going to use that kind of the box that we talked about here. So, this point, right, it's 8 units over on the x-axis and 4 units up, right? Now, if I do 90 degrees, what we're saying here, if I'm going clockwise, I rotate this 90 degrees so my point ends up here. What that means is I flip my x and y value, so now I have 4, 8, and you have to look at the quadrant that you're in. This is in the first quadrant. All of my x and y values here are positive, right? Here we had -8, 4, now I have 4, 8. So for a 180 degree rotation, you can think of it as doing another 90 degrees. I would end up here. And you can think of almost, if we're doing a 90 degree rotation, we flip that x and y. But you'll notice that it's really just the same as what we started with. The only difference is the signs. Here I had a -8, 4. Here I'm going to have a +8 and a -4. Alright, this has been a 180 degree rotation. The last video was about 90 degree rotation. We reviewed that in this video. And so the assignment is on rotations.